Part 3. You understand and get to know the characters better. The thing that makes Empire Strikes Back so special is that this film's focus is on the characters. Unlike the first one, where we are introduced to the characters and we get to know them pretty well, this time around we really enter the psyche of the characters. We feel their pain, we can almost think what they're thinking. This is due to the great chemistry between the actors and the excellent direction by Kershner. A strong focus on character is just the thing that the middle act of this story needs, hence why Kershner wisely chose to move this film at a slightly slower pace than its predecessor. However, that is why some people consider this to be the boring Star Wars film, because there's more emphasis on character than action. What these critics don't take into account is that it is the middle part of a bigger story. The first part of the story is where the characters are introduced and Luke is very quickly thrust into this new world, hence the faster pacing and more action. The second act is where we really get to know the characters, causing the stakes to rise for everyone, perfectly setting up the third act where we finally see how the story unfolds, and we are invested in what's going on because we've gotten to know and love the characters. Luke, for example, changes a lot throughout the film, and we really get into the psyche of the character. We hear him ask questions in his training.
Vader, is the dark side stronger?
No. But the busier, more seductive.
But how am I to know the good side from the bad?
And we really can feel his emotional conflict, especially during the training scenes. Another important aspect of the film is the advancement of the romance between Han and Leia. Now, if there's one thing that turns me off about some films, it's if they try to force a romance down your throat. Let's see an example of this in the far inferior Star Wars film, Attack of the Clones. In this scene, Anakin and Padme are hiding in our home planet of Naboo.
It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here everything is soft and smooth.
I shouldn't have done that.
I'm sorry.
The only reason for this scene's existence is that the plot requires them to fall in love. And what do you know? They hide the most romantic-looking planet ever. Well, that's convenient to the plot, wouldn't you say? With amazing, memorable dialogue such as,
I don't like sand.
this scene is almost unwatchable. There's no chemistry between the actors, resulting in a cheesy, incredibly forced romance that's only a part of the plot because it has to be there. Now let's compare this to a scene from Empire Strikes Back. In this scene, Han and Leia are trapped inside the cave, and everyone is trying to fix the Millennium Falcon.
Hey, your worship, I'm only trying to help.
Would you please stop calling me that?
Sure, Leia.
You make it so difficult sometimes.
I do, I really do. You could be a little nicer, though. Come on, admit it, sometimes you think I'm all right.
Occasionally, maybe. When you aren't acting like a scoundrel.
Scoundrel? Scoundrel? I like the sound of that.
Stop that.
Stop what?
Stop that. My hands are dirty.
My hands are dirty, too. What are you afraid of?
Afraid?
You're trembling.
I'm not trembling.
You like me because I'm a scoundrel. There aren't enough scoundrels in your life.
I happen to like nice men.
Nice man.
Very nice.
Now this romance has been building for about a movie and a half now, and the viewer is interested in what happens to these characters. This is because we really know them due to the good acting and writing. What makes this scene work, unlike the previous scene, is that it makes sense in regards to what's going on. This is just a simple, sweet moment that happens between two characters who have feelings for one another. They are both in the moment, fearing for their lives, and realizing that they could all die at any moment. This range of emotions all finally come to the surface, and they finally get together.
Nice man.
Unlike the other scene, this movie doesn't need these two characters to fall in love. Everything would end up the same if they didn't. It just happens. It makes sense to the story, what we've established the characters to be like. It just seems like a genuine moment, how Han makes all the moves and the stubborn Leia just seems to stay there. Not to mention the dialogue is miles above clones. Another character that becomes fully fleshed out in the film is none other than Darth Vader himself. In the first film, Vader is more represented as a force of unstoppable evil. Everyone fears him, and that's that. In Empire Strikes Back, however, we begin to see his vulnerability. We understand his motives better, and instead of being a force of pure evil, we begin to see him more as a person, as is evident in one of the final scenes of the film.
Luke,
Father,
son, come with me.
why didn't you tell me?
Basically what I'm trying to say is that by the end of the film, we know and understand the characters better than we did at the beginning, which makes this film way better. Part